It was jasmine tea with honey. Her favorite. Vivian Cross had taken the porcelain teacup from her husband's hands with a grateful smile. It was just after the merger deal, one she'd worked 18 months to perfect. She should have been celebrating. Instead she was dying. The pain had started behind her eyes. A sudden pulse like a needle driving through her skull. Then nausea. Then numbness. She dropped the teacup. It shattered on the marble floor of the penthouse they shared. Julian didn't run to her. He stood and watched. Lena Ward, her assistant, her friend, her shadow, knelt beside her, a false panic painted across her perfect face. Vivian? Vivian, what's wrong? Vivian couldn't speak. She tried to raise her hand but her body was locking up. Her husband knelt beside her now, too. His breath was close. You never learned when to stop being useful, he whispered. And you always trusted too much. Then, softly like a parting kiss, he added, "Sleep well, darling." Vivian's heart gave out at 11:48 p.m. Her official cause of death, heart failure brought on by overwork and exhaustion. Her empire, Veil Cross Technologies, was inherited by Julian and Lena, new co-hosts and now a couple. Vivian never got to scream. She never got to fight back. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. She woke up choking on her breath as if pulled from the bottom of the ocean. The air was warm. Familiar. The sheets were cotton, not the silk she'd chosen after the IPO. Her room was smaller. Older. Vivian sat up sharply. The mirror across from her bed reflected the impossible. A younger face untouched by grief or betrayal. Hair longer. Skin unwrinkled by nights of anxiety. The calendar on the wall said April 14, 2022. 1 year before her death. The room, it was her old apartment. The one she'd left after moving in with Julian. Vivian staggered to the bathroom, flipping the light on. Same eyes. Same body. Same name. Same life rewound. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She opened her laptop. Her inbox was full, requests from Veil Cross's acquisition team, Julian's assistant asking about a board schedule, Lena requesting a girls' dinner. All the pieces were still in place. Her empire. Her killers. Her legacy. Vivian stared at the screen and whispered, "Not this time." The first change was subtle. She accepted Julian's dinner invitation that night. Same upscale restaurant. Same table in the private lounge. He was there already, dressed in effortless black, sipping wine, oozing charm. He smiled. "You're glowing tonight." Vivian returned the smile. Must be the quiet before the storm. Julian reached across the table, fingers brushing hers. "We're going to rule this city together, Viv. You and me." She tilted her head. "Funny. I used to believe that." He blinked. She sipped her drink and let the silence hang just long enough to unsettle him. Back at the office, she began moving pieces. Lena was still her assistant, still perfect and helpful. She brought Vivian coffee every morning with that same bubbly tone. Skim latte, no sugar. Extra cinnamon. I remembered. Vivian accepted it. Smiled. I never drank it. She installed a biometric scanner under her desk. Reset all her account passwords. Logged into the financial branches of the company Julian never bothered to study. The empire had been half hers on paper. In truth, she'd built every algorithm, wrote the original back-end code and seeded the vision. This time she wouldn't just lead it. She'd own it. By Friday, Vivian had quietly purchased 2.4% of Veil Cross stock under an alias, Nova V. Lang. It was small. Invisible to Julian and Lena. But it gave her access. And a seat at the upcoming shareholder roundtable Julian hadn't bothered to tell her about. The one where he planned to propose removing her as co-CEO. She didn't show her hand. At home she smiled. In meetings she nodded. When Lena presented new projections for Julian's visionary future AI expansion, Vivian clapped the loudest. "You've grown so much," she told Lena softly, eyes calm. Lena beamed, soaking up the praise. Vivian tilted her head and added, "Almost enough to believe your own lies." The room went quiet for half a second. Then Lena laughed nervously. "You always tease me, Viv." Vivian just sipped her tea. Not poisoned today, she thought. I made it myself. That weekend she visited someone she hadn't seen in over a decade. Miles Dorian, the former CTO of Blackbridge Analytics. He had once offered to partner with Veil Cross. Julian rejected him without even reading the brief. Miles had walked away furious and created the strongest independent data mapping software on the East Coast. Vivian knocked on his penthouse door with no makeup, no entourage, no press. When he opened it, he stared like he was seeing a ghost. Vivian Cross? In the flesh, she said smoothly. Or back from the dead, depending on how you look at it. He frowned. You're married to Julian Blackwood. Not anymore, she said. Not really. Miles crossed his arms. Why are you here? Vivian handed him a folder. As I read your brief. And I want to fund your expansion. Under my name this time. He opened it slowly. Read. You're serious? I'm also looking for a CTO. Quietly. His eyes narrowed. You planning a coup? She smiled. I'm planning to survive. The shareholder meeting was held in a glass tower above Fifth Avenue. Julian wore his power like a crown. Custom navy suit, gold cufflinks. A watch worth more than a car. Vivian wore black silk. Her hair pulled back. No jewelry. She didn't need ornaments. He had weapons. Julian opened with his usual charm. My vision is to take Vale Cross beyond its current limitations. With full leadership consolidation, we can pivot toward more aggressive AI innovation, unburdened by the slower-moving segments of our current structure. He smiled at her across the table. Vivian returned it. When he introduced a motion to restructure the board, one name appeared on the roster of new contributors. Nova V. Lang, holding 2.4% and rising. Julian blinked. Vivian leaned forward. Nova won't be joining us today. But she's approved my statement on her behalf. The board chair nodded. Proceed. Vivian tapped the microphone. This company was built on integrity, innovation, vision, and above all, partnership. If we reward betrayal masked as ambition, we lose more than just equity. We lose trust. Julian's smile faded. Vale Cross deserves better, Vivian finished. Then she sat back. 2 board members nodded. One shifted uncomfortably. The motion stalled. Julian didn't speak to her for the rest of the day. But his jaw remained tight, grinding on the taste of unexpected resistance. That night she went home to her apartment. The same one Julian once called too small for a queen. Vivian locked the door behind her, tossed her heels to the floor and opened her private ledger. Her secret stake had grown. The data Miles gave her had exposed hidden accounts. Projects Julian and Lena had diverted funds toward. Projects that were failing. Vivian didn't plan to expose them. Yet. She wanted Julian and Lena to feel secure first. Let them believe they've still won. Let them celebrate. And then one morning wake up with nothing. Vivian stood by her window as the city lights glittered below. She raised a glass of honeyed tea, one she'd made herself. To trust, she whispered. And the taste of its death. Vivian Cross once trusted Lena Ward with her schedule, her secrets, her signature. Now she trusted Lena to be exactly who she was in the last life. Ambitious, calculating, and close enough to kill. Only this time, Vivian had no intention of being caught off guard. She wasn't going to die again. She'd already done that once. And the memory was still bitter in her mouth. Lena noticed the distance first. You don't call me at night anymore, she said one morning, placing coffee on Vivian's desk with a too sweet smile. I miss our late-night crisis talks. Vivian looked up, her expression unreadable. I don't have crises anymore. Oh. Lena chuckled nervously. How do you manage that? Vivian took the coffee. Didn't drink it. I stopped letting people handle things for me. Lena's smile twitched. I guess we're all evolving. Yes, Vivian replied, eyes cold. Some faster than others. Vivian's return had been quiet but not without purpose. Every move she made was designed to expose the cracks Julian and Lena thought they had buried. And the first fault line? The shell companies. In her last life, Vivian thought the company's slipping numbers were just poor timing. Now she knew better. Lena had orchestrated a series of fake acquisitions, pretty names, hollow entities, all funneling funds under the guise of R&D. Vivian tracked every one of them. She logged in from a private laptop at night, collecting transaction trails, IP addresses, and paper signatures. The forgery on her own digital approvals made her stomach turn. But she didn't react. Not yet. She compiled it all quietly. and passed it to a legal contact she had retained in this life. Someone Julian didn't know existed. Someone who would forward the findings anonymously to the Securities and Exchange Commission within the week. On Friday, Vivian invited Lena to lunch. The invitation was deliberate: familiarity to disarm, nostalgia to distract. They sat on a rooftop garden restaurant with views of the city skyline. Vivian wore white silk, her hair pinned up. Lena had chosen red, loud, bold, maybe to feel in control. "You've been keeping to yourself lately," Lena said after their appetizers arrived. Vivian cut into her grilled artichoke. "Busy. We used to be closer." Vivian lifted her gaze. "Did we?" Lena hesitated. "Of course. You've always been like a sister to me." Vivian placed her fork down slowly. "You were like a sister to me too, Lena. Until I started watching more closely." The silence that followed was thick. Lena forced a laugh. "You're joking, right?" Vivian sipped her wine. "Absolutely." But she didn't smile. Later that night, Lena paced in Julian's penthouse. "She's changed." Julian didn't look up from his tablet. "She's focused." "Good. She's back in the game." "No, you don't get it," Lena snapped. "She's different. She doesn't ask for help. She doesn't second-guess anything. And when she looks at me, it's like she's waiting for me to make a mistake." Julian finally raised an eyebrow. "So, let her look." "You're not listening," Lena hissed. "She's not on our side anymore." He closed the tablet. "Then we speed things up." "She's watching everything," Lena said. "If we push the merger too hard, she'll tear it apart." Julian leaned back, eyes narrowing. "Then maybe it's time I remind her who she used to trust." On Monday, Julian pitched a surprise acquisition at the board meeting. A biotech AI startup with breakthrough predictive health algorithms. "We're moving forward fast," he said. "Cutting-edge integration, exclusive rights, and complete buyout before next quarter." He looked directly at Vivian. She returned his gaze calmly. "And who vetted the technology?" Julian shrugged with confidence. "The due diligence team ran full diagnostics." Vivian's tone stayed smooth. "Did they also verify the address listed on the founder's LLC?" Julian blinked. "It's a UPS box in Queens," she continued. "The founders don't exist. Their pitch deck is copied from a 2019 Stanford paper. And the FDA has no record of their clinical submissions." The room went silent. The board chair leaned forward. "Mr. Blackwood, is this accurate?" Julian's jaw clenched. "We're still early in validation." Vivian smiled faintly. "Yet you filed acquisition intent yesterday. That's quite a leap for early validation." The chairman nodded. "We'll table this for now." Julian stared at her as the room cleared. "You could have handled that differently," he said under his breath. "I could have," she agreed. "But I didn't." Vivian didn't go straight home. She walked along the river instead, wind tugging her coat, heart steady. In her last life, she would have confronted Julian privately, quietly, given him a chance to explain. Not anymore. This version of her didn't negotiate with traitors. She dismantled them, piece by piece. That night, an anonymous whistleblower report hit the inboxes of the Financial Truth and the SEC. It detailed every one of Vale Cross's shady acquisitions from the past year. Lena's name appeared twice. Julian's 5 times. The forged approvals, Vivian's stolen signature, were attached as proof. The story hit headlines within hours. Shadow mergers and fraud. Vale Cross Tech under investigation. By morning, panic bloomed in the office. Lena didn't show up. Julian arrived late, snapping orders, eyes bloodshot. Vivian was already in her office when he stormed in. "Did you leak this?" he demanded. She looked up, sipping her coffee. "Of course not." He threw a folder on her desk. "They're tearing us apart." Vivian glanced at the folder, then met his gaze. "Then maybe you shouldn't have built something so easy to break." "You're acting like I'm the enemy," he said bitterly. "I'm acting like I finally know who is," she replied. "And it's liberating." Lena finally arrived that afternoon. Vivian passed her in the hallway. Stopped. "You missed a wild morning." Lena's lips were dry. "I saw." Vivian leaned in, voice low. "They always said assistants know everything. Guess it's true." Lena stiffened. Vivian smiled. "Careful what you hold, Lena." Some things leave stains. Then she walked away. That night, Vivian returned to her apartment, poured a glass of her favorite wine, and looked out at the city she was about to reclaim. Her empire was rising again. Not rebuilt. Rewritten. This time her name would stand alone. Julian Blackwood always knew how to weaponize charm. In the past, a smile from him could disarm senators, sway investors, and melt the frost on Vivian's worst days. But this time she felt nothing. He invited her to dinner the night after the scandal broke, framing it as a peace meeting to repair the company's image. She said yes, not because she believed him, because she wanted to watch him try to win with the same tactics he used to kill. The rooftop restaurant was one they used to frequent. Private. Familiar. Julian was already waiting with 2 glasses of wine and that same expensive grin. "Viv," he said warmly, rising to greet her. She let him kiss her cheek but didn't sit. "Not yet. I assumed this was a business meeting." He chuckled. "Always straight to strategy. That's what I missed." Vivian slowly took her seat. "Let's not pretend this is nostalgia." He tilted his head. "Is it so hard to believe I care about you?" "Care," she repeated. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Julian's smile faltered. He poured her wine, sliding it across the table. "You're upset." She didn't touch it. "No, Julian. I'm focused." He leaned back, studying her like a chessboard. "You used to need me." She met his gaze head-on. "I used to believe you were irreplaceable. Turns out silence after betrayal is better than noise filled with lies." Julian smirked faintly. "You've changed." "No," she said, her voice soft but cold. "You just never saw me clearly." He tried again. "Soft apologies. Flattery. Memories." He reached across the table and said the line he thought would undo her. "You made this company what it is. Without you, none of this would exist." Vivian's eyes flickered. "Exactly," she said evenly. "And that's why I'm taking it back." Julian blinked. "What?" Vivian rose, placing a white envelope on the table. "Effective next week, the board will vote to restructure the leadership team. Several members have already expressed no confidence in your judgment." He gave a short laugh. "You don't have the votes." "I do," she replied. "I also own 19.6% of Vale Cross under 3 registered entities." "You ignored the proxy alerts. Too busy playing king." Julian stared at her, trying to read if she was bluffing. She wasn't. "You should have paid attention, Julian," she said. "I was always the one writing the code. You were just the headline." Back at Vale Cross, Lena was unraveling. The scandal hadn't blown over. The media had only grown hungrier and a new rumor swirled like wildfire. Vivian was organizing a takeover. Once confident, Lena now flinched when Vivian walked by. That afternoon, Lena tried to corner her outside the executive elevator. "I just want to talk." Vivian kept walking. "Talk is cheap. Like the vendors you funneled millions into." Lena blocked her path. "You're bluffing. You have no proof." Vivian turned to face her. "Come. Precise. I have more than proof. I have patience. That's the part you always lacked." Lena blinked. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Vivian said. "You're not even worth revenge. You'll destroy yourself the moment you're no longer useful to him." Then she stepped inside the elevator and let the doors close. That evening, Vivian returned to her private apartment and reviewed her final documents. She had Miles refine the release for the board, backing it with her now majority-aligned proxies. All she needed was the vote. Hours later, she received a message. "Julian wants to speak. At the penthouse. Alone." She went. Not to reconcile. To remind him that she was never the one who needed saving. The penthouse hadn't changed since her last life. Same marble floors. Same skyline view. Same scent of imported leather and overpriced silence. Julian appeared at the top of the stairs. "Why are you here?" he asked, voice tight. Vivian looked around. "Just measuring how small this place feels without me in it." His expression hardened. "You really think you can win?" Vivian met his eyes. "I already did." He came down a step. "You're nothing without me. You always were." She smiled slowly. "That's what you told yourself while poisoning me, right?" Julian froze. "I won't return the favor," she said. "Poison's for cowards." Then she turned and walked away, her heels echoing against the marble like a final verdict. Back at her apartment, she poured herself a glass of wine. One she poured herself. She sat by the window, eyes on the glittering skyline she once ruled beside him. But this time, she would rule alone. And no one would ever see the knife until it was too late. Lena Ward still thought she had options. Even with headlines circling like vultures, with board members dodging her emails and whispers following her into every elevator, she believed she could salvage it. After all, she had always landed on her feet. Why not now? She didn't realize that Vivian wasn't trying to fight her. Vivian was waiting. Waiting for Lena to cling harder to a throne that was already set on fire. The board meeting was scheduled for Thursday morning. Vivian arrived first, calm, composed, dressed in a tailored navy suit that didn't try to soften her authority. He shook hands, made quiet conversation, took her seat at the far end of the table where Julian used to preside. She didn't glance at the empty chair beside her. He didn't need to. Julian walked in 5 minutes late. Lena arrived with him. Both looked tired, like the shadows clung to them even in the brightly lit conference room. Vivian didn't stand when they entered. She didn't even look up. She just folded her hands and waited for the murmurs to stop. Then she spoke. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here," she said, her voice steady, crisp. "We're here to vote on a restructuring motion that reflects the reality our company now faces." She slid a folder to the center of the table. "You'll find documentation detailing misappropriation of funds, undisclosed relationships with shell vendors, and falsified financial projections presented to investors." Lena shifted in her seat. Julian leaned forward. "This is nothing more than a vendetta." Vivian didn't even blink. "Then vote against it." She turned to the chairman. "Proceed." One by one the votes were cast. When it came to Vivian, she pushed her stack of proxy documents forward. A silence followed, dense, crushing. The chairman glanced at the tallied sheet. "Effective immediately," he said, "Julian Blackwood is removed as CEO of Veil Cross Technologies." A beat passed. He looked at Lena. "Ms. Ward is hereby suspended pending formal investigation." Julian stood. "You're making a mistake." Vivian finally turned to face him. "No. You did. When you thought I was gone." He looked like he wanted to scream. But he didn't. He walked out without a word. Lena stayed behind, frozen. Vivian looked at her, not angry, not triumphant. Just tired of seeing the same faces wearing different masks. "You could have had your own legacy," Vivian said. "But you settled for sleeping next to someone else's crown." Lena opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Vivian turned to the board. "Now," she said, "let's rebuild." The press release went out that afternoon. Vivian Cross returns as sole CEO of Veil Cross Technologies amid restructuring. Stock rose 14% in hours. Investors flooded back in. And inside the building, employees watched the transformation with awe. It wasn't just leadership. It was a shift in power that felt almost mythic. The woman they thought was fading had just burned her name into history. Lena tried to reach out that evening, sent a long message, half apology, half excuse. Vivian didn't respond. She forwarded it directly to the internal legal team. Let Lena plead in front of the people who mattered. Julian meanwhile tried one last move. He appeared on a business podcast the next morning, framing himself as a visionary undermined by corporate politics. But mid-interview, a breaking alert popped up on the host's screen. Leaked footage from a private board dinner. Julian bragging about manipulating stock projections and cleaning house. Vivian had sent it through a contact anonymously. The host smiled at Julian. "Care to comment on this clip of you saying you'd gut the board and sell it for parts?" Julian's face drained. The segment went viral. By midnight, Julian Blackwood's name trended with the phrase, #VeilCrossTraitor. Vivian didn't celebrate with champagne. She didn't post anything. She didn't even change her schedule. Instead, she walked into the office the next day exactly on time. Past Julian's now vacant office. Paused only to remove the nameplate. She dropped it into a storage box. Then entered the executive suite, the one they never let her own before, and locked the door behind her. She finally sat at the head of the table alone. And smiled. It was never about revenge alone. It was about truth. Power. Peace. Revenge was just the knife she used to cut the ropes. There was a time when Vivian Cross couldn't walk into a boardroom without Julian Blackwood at her side. His hand at the small of her back. His voice, warm and polished, introducing her as the genius behind the curtain. Now she didn't need an introduction. The curtain was gone. The spotlight was hers. After taking full control of Veil Cross Technologies, Vivian worked quietly, but fast. Within 3 weeks she had replaced the former CFO and legal advisor, both of whom had approved Julian's shady dealings, with people she trusted from her independent advisory network. People she had quietly groomed for this. Then came the internal audit division, rebuilt from scratch. All departments now reported through encrypted digital ledgers. No more off-the-book spending. No more blind signatures. The company's culture shifted overnight. She didn't give speeches. She gave direction. And the staff followed, grateful to be working under someone whose authority didn't come from charisma but clarity. Julian, on the other hand, was spiraling. His social invitations vanished. Sponsors withdrew. Several pending deals collapsed once the scandal caught traction globally. He tried to launch a new firm under a different name, but investors wouldn't touch it. They all whispered the same thing. Vivian Cross survived him. And no one bet against the survivor. Lena Ward went silent. After her suspension, she deleted her professional profiles. Whispers said she left the city, trying to disappear before charges stuck. Vivian didn't pursue her. He didn't have to. There was no empire left to steal from. No ladder to climb. Lena had burned every bridge and Vivian had made sure there was no way back. 3 months into her new reign, Vivian received a letter. Formal offer. From Atlas Dynamics. One of Veil Cross's former competitors. Bigger, older, and richer. They wanted to buy a stake in her new AI branch. But that wasn't the shocking part. The letter was signed by Callum Reid, Vivian's ex-rival. The one man she had almost partnered with before Julian persuaded her otherwise. He requested a meeting. In person. She agreed. The penthouse bar at the Arlo Hotel was quiet when she arrived. Private. No paparazzi. No distractions. Callum stood as she approached, tall and composed, his steel gray suit matching the rain-cloud skyline behind him. Vivian Cross, he said with a nod. The Phoenix of Wall Street. She smirked faintly. You always did love dramatic metaphors. And you always did know how to land on your feet. She took a seat. Sometimes I had to build the ground first. He smiled. I watched it all unfold. The collapse. I have to say it was surgical. Vivian met his eyes. That wasn't surgery. That was mercy. I still have the scalpel. He ordered her drink without asking, she noted that. But it wasn't arrogance. It was memory. She watched as the bartender slid the glass toward her. Pling. Ice floating near the top. She didn't touch it. Still don't trust anyone with your drink? Callum asked lightly. Vivian looked at him. No. I just like the reminder. He leaned forward. I didn't just come to admire the ruins you left behind. I came to offer a blueprint. She raised an eyebrow. Atlas wants to build something new. But I don't want a partnership. I want to merge. With you as the face. Vivian didn't react. Not immediately. You want my company. I want you running something bigger. She stared at him. Julian used to say I couldn't survive without him, she said slowly. Now you're telling me I could rule more if I handed you the reins? Callum leaned back. I'm offering you the throne you built, scaled to its potential. She looked at the skyline beyond the glass. Her empire was steady now, but the fire inside her hadn't gone out. Not yet. And what was the point of surviving, if you couldn't turn survival into dominance? I'll think about it, she said. Don't wait too long, he replied. But Vivian didn't rush decisions anymore. She made them with the same precision Julian once feared. That night she walked through the quiet halls of Veil Cross HQ. Her heels echoed in the empty corridor as she stepped into the new executive suite, the one they never let her claim before. The lights inside were dim. Her reflection in the floor-to-ceiling window stared back, sharper, stronger. She pulled a folder from her coat. Inside, Callum's offer. The valuation. The expansion map. She could take the company global. Dominate every sector Julian once wanted to control. But this time it would be hers. Entirely. No shadows behind her. No poison waiting in a teacup. Her phone buzzed. A message from a blocked number. "You're always good. But you'll never be better than us." He stared at the screen. And laughed. He typed back. "You're right. I'm not better than the two of you. I'm still alive." Then she powered down the phone and poured herself a drink. This time she drank it without fear. Because she poured it herself. Because she had built this world brick by brutal brick. And because outside that window, the city no longer belonged to Julian Blackwood or Lena Ward. It belonged to her. It happened 6 months after the fall. Julian Blackwood showed up at her office. Uninvited. Unannounced. No press. No legal team. Just a man with tired eyes, worn shoes, and the weight of everything he'd lost pressed into his posture. Vivian could have had him escorted out. He didn't. She told security to let him through. Not because she owed him anything, but because she wanted to see what his excuses looked like. Up close. Julian stood in her office, hands in his coat pockets, taking in the view they once shared. Only now the desk was hers. The skyline no longer reflected their dreams, only hers. "You could have just taken the company and walked away," he said finally. "Why did you have to make it personal?" Vivian rose from her chair with slow, deliberate grace. "It was personal, Julian. You underestimated me. Replaced me. Used me." He stepped forward, almost defensive. "I made mistakes, but I never tried to destroy you." She circled the desk, her heels tapping softly on the polished floor. When she spoke, her voice was calm. Too calm. "Maybe not in this lifetime," she said. "But the moment you treated me like I was disposable, the moment you handed over everything I built to someone else, that was the moment you wrote your ending." Julian blinked, confused. "What are you talking about?" Vivian stepped closer, her voice soft and sharp as glass. "You may not remember what you did. But I do. And so does every room that now refuses to say your name." He stared at her, searching her expression. For a second she wondered if he felt it. A shadow of another life. A trace of what he'd once done. But no. He didn't understand. That was fine. She didn't need him to. "I don't need your guilt, Julian," she said. "I don't even need your apology. I just needed to watch you fall." His voice faltered. "I loved you once." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "You loved control. You loved convenience. You never loved me." Julian took a breath. His voice came out smaller. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Disappear," she said. "Like I did. Only this time no one's coming back for you." He didn't yell. She didn't cry. She simply turned her back. And Julian Blackwood walked out of her life forever. Defeated, irrelevant, forgotten. That night she walked through the halls of Vale Cross HQ, the company she rebuilt in her own image. The empire they once shared was hers now, down to the last detail. But it wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about clarity, peace, and power. Weeks later she attended the World Tech Forum in Geneva. She delivered the keynote to thunderous applause. "Vale Cross is no longer just a tech company," she said. "It's a statement that no one can write your story but you. No Julian. No Lena. Just Vivian." After the event she stepped outside to breathe in the Swiss air. Soft clouds moved overhead. "You always know how to command a stage," a familiar voice said behind her. She turned. Callum Reed. This time no suit. No stiff handshake. Just a knowing smile and hands in his pockets. "I've been thinking about your offer," she said before he could speak. He smiled. "Yeah. I don't want to merge companies." He raised an eyebrow. "Too bad. I wasn't offering a merger anymore." She tilted her head. "No." He stepped closer. "I was offering coffee. Maybe dinner. A clean beginning. No contracts this time." Vivian didn't respond right away. She didn't need to rush anything anymore. Power was no longer her shield. It was just part of her. And love. If it came, it would be on her terms. Not as a weakness but as a choice. She nodded slowly. "One dinner." Callum smiled. "I'll take it." That evening she returned to her office. The city lit up beneath her like stars scattered across the earth. She looked at the nameplate on her desk. Vivian Cross. Not Mrs. Blackwood. Not Cosio. Not Survivor. Just the woman who came back from nothing. And became everything. Vandy.